Yeah, we just found out too.
Okay, no, I wasn't talking about
No,
that.
nobody.
Okay.
She didn't know. We all know.
Oh, she didn't even know.
No, I don't think so.
Oh.
Not this one.
This is which child? Okay.
But like this one and another TPS. So she has like,
In her house.
All right, y'all, here we go.
oh, it's on.
Good evening. I'd like to call this evening's meeting of the Board of Directors to order. Let's go ahead and start by rising for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tacoma Public Schools acknowledges that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and historical lands of the Puyallup Tribe of Indians. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Puyallup Tribe. This acknowledgement serves as a first step in honoring our nearest tribal neighbors and partners who have inhabited this region since time immemorial, and to whom we give thanks for allowing us passage to their lands. We shall intentionally create inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and socio-political realities. General Counsel Benro, will you please call the roll?
Yes, President Stroger,
Here.
Vice President McElroy,
here.
Director Leon,
Here.
Director Bonebright,
Here.
Director Keating.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I move to adopt the agenda.
I second.
The agenda's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed? All right, moving on to item number 6, recognition of staff, students, and community. 6.1, state holidays and civic observances.
Yes, in the month of January, we have 4 civic observances and 1 state holiday. So the first is Americans of Chinese Descent History Month, which recognizes the contributions and achievements of Chinese Americans in Washington State. This was established by the state legislature in 2003 and is observed every January. Our second legislative day is Human Trafficking Awareness Day, which is on January 11th. This day is to raise awareness about human trafficking, to educate students, families, and community about prevention, and then to publicize the support resources which are available. Specifically, they're available at the website for the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, so that's DCYF, has a lot of these resources. We also have Korean American Day, which is on January 13th. This both celebrates the arrival of the first Korean immigrants to the United States in very early 1900s, and then also honors Korean Americans' contributions to Washington State. We also have Temperance and Good Citizenship Day, which is January 16th. This was established in 1923 to promote civic education, civic engagement, and there's a component of the rule which requires schools to teach about Washington State Constitution and good citizenship responsibilities. So in the month of January, you can expect to see some of those lessons throughout the district. And then we have both a federal and a state holiday, which is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. It's celebrated on the 3rd Monday of January, and it honors Dr. King's legacy of nonviolent activism for civil rights and racial equality. And this year it falls on Monday, January 20th. So because it's a state holiday, it means there will be no school for students on Monday, January 20th, and the district offices will also be closed. And so those are our January observances.
Okay, cool, thank you. Moving on to item 6.2, which is recognition of the School Board of Directors for Board Recognition Month. Oh, I didn't do it.
But hey, it is January, Mr. President, and thank you for being so thoughtful on that. And so I would like to take a moment and say nationwide, states mark January as School Board Recognition Month, and Washington is no exception. This month is an opportunity to celebrate you as elected officials who serve your community by dedicating your time, your energy, and go above and beyond the ordinary occupations. You as citizens play a crucial role in helping us set conditions that help our students thrive, ensure that our schools remain responsive to the needs of the community and future generations, much like you've done all week and all you did in 2024, and I'm sure you'll do through 2025. Just for those at home, some folks who may not know is what are some of the functions of a school board? Well, you help ensure that there's educational excellence throughout the school system. You help with policy adoption to ensure the governance is there. You help with budget oversight. you help with community advocacy, and you help with legislative advocacy. So I'm sure we'll come back in the end of January as well, but let's not wait one more moment to help celebrate January as School Board Recognition Month. So congratulations.
Solid. Thank you. We'll look forward to the end of the month as well. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a month-long celebration.
It's a
Much longer
month-long
celebration.
celebration.
Yeah, for sure. We deserve that at least. Item number 7, Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, I have a few things. First and foremost, Happy New Year. We are back, and we're excited to be back. We started school, I feel like just this week, but it seems like time is flying. We've had a busy week already, and so exciting times. I just remind folks that January does go by fast, and for our secondary students, the semester ends at the end of January. And so this is that time to take a deep breath. You got this. Ask for help. Lean into that. Check your missing assignments. Retake tests if you need to. Follow through. You got a lot of caring, supportive adults around you in the school system, and so use those as resources in that space. It is also Whole Child Month in January, right? Last month we did a proclamation. Many of our community partners are doing proclamations across the city. The governor has a proclamation on his desk in order to recognize Washington as Whole Child Month. And we're extremely grateful for your service. We'll be doing some more work at the end of January, recognizing some of our whole child champions. And so that'll be a great opportunity and some celebrations in that. Next, I'd like to Kari up to do a little educational series for us around some educational funding.
Good evening. I'm Kari Campen, Director of Strategic Financial Operations, and we'll continue our educational funding series. And this is a refresher slide from last time, again, kind of noting that there's 6 specific funds that we work through in the school district. They're each like a separate checkbook, and we don't commingle between them. So they each have a specific purpose, specific funding, specific expenditures that are associated with those. And again, just as kind of a refresher from last time. Another refresher from last time is showing you here about the general fund. So for the general fund itself, there are several different funding sources. The state funds are about 73%, federal agencies 8%, and local taxpayers about 14%, and then the others that are listed in there. You'll see that our revenue budget for this year is $578 million from those sources. And again, that's a refresher from last time. Here are the ones that Rosalind outlined last time as well as some funds for us to take a look at. There are more revenue sources than just these, but these are the major ones. Tonight we're focusing on child nutrition. In my role here, I work with child nutrition and transportation groups at our district. So the funding kind of mechanism for nutrition services or child nutrition is meals that are served. And we want a little more detail there. So the funding is provided at a rate per meal or snack that's established by the USDA and OSPI for each school year. That's we receive the funds every month based on the previous participation in school meals and snacks that we have. The OSPI administers those funds on behalf of the U.S. Department of Agriculture as well. And then in our district, oh, go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, do you happen to know when they were last updated? I mean, the amounts, that's fairly, the amounts are pretty meager for a meal, so I'm wondering when they were last updated.
They
Do you
are
know?
they're actually updated every year.
Oh, goodness.
And this rate actually, 2 years ago, it was subsidized with additional funds as well from ESSER funds, but those funds have went away. So we actually last year had a reduction in the amount that we received per meal per student.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So just to put you on the spot, Kari, so when we say there's increases, so do the state provided funds cover the cost of the meal services?
They do not.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I've got a future slide to kind of show that, but you're right, it's a pretty small amount for the amount of, for the meals that are being served here. In fact, down there I've got listed out, $2.37 is the reimbursement for a breakfast meal for our students. $4.43 for a lunch that's being served, and then snacks, $1.21. So, pretty small amount.
And for like lunch, there's hot meals, there's a salad bar, all of which, if you're, just as normal people going to the grocery store, $4 doesn't cover much.
That's correct. It does make it difficult to provide kind of a variety of foods, but we've taken that challenge and we are providing some. We're involved in some other programs like Farm to Schools, where we take local farms, bring the foods in. Interestingly, I was just in a school, I guess, right before a break, and they had Brussels sprouts that had been cut in half and baked with some seasoning. I mean, how often do you expect to see that in a school? Well, we had it because we had local farms that could provide it for us at a cost that we could afford to provide that kind of an option for students in schools. And you would think, how many kids like Brussels sprouts? Well, we ran out almost every day. So it was great.
Commodity.
Yeah.
Director Keating, did you have a question, comment?
It took me many, many more years to actually appreciate Brussels sprouts, so I'm highly impressed with our students. Maybe that's because Gen X being feral and raised on, Hungry Man dinners, but I'm very impressed with that.
Yeah. Other thing I think it's important for you to know is that where we used to have the free and reduced meal program, free was free, reduced was reduced, and then others would pay the full amount for that meal. We're now under CEP. That's a 4-year program that we qualify for, and then we can reapply for it for another 4 years. And under the CEP program, all students eat without paying for a meal, for that first meal at least. They can come back and get more and pay for it if they want to, but every student is eligible for a meal without paying for it in our district. Also, I put on here a qualified meal, so they have to take a qualified meal in order for us to get reimbursed for it. So if someone walks up and says, I just want an apple and, nachos, that doesn't qualify for a lunch. It has to be 3 components based on the 5 components that U.S. Department of Agriculture has said should be part of a balanced meal. And so we have to have a qualified meal. OSBI comes in and audits us, which they just recently did, to make sure that we're encouraging students to take the right amount of meal and then the right types of components to make it a qualified meal as well. Does that make sense?
Do we have an estimate of, or a percentage of how often students don't take a qualified meal? Because I can't imagine you would force food on them, because that doesn't seem appropriate.
Yeah, so we do have an option for someone if they just want to, get 2 items, we can charge them for that. Most often, students know the process, and so they will take 3 components, so it qualifies for that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Additionally, we have shared bins at the secondary schools. So if someone takes, an apple and nachos and something else, and they really don't want to eat an apple, but that qualifies it as a meal, they can put it in a shared bin, and other students can take from the shared bin. So. So if we look at the last couple of years, historically, the meals that we've been serving, I put up in the middle there the student enrollment based on head count. And I put the head count part in there for you to know that most of the funding that we receive is based on student FTE, full-time equivalents. In nutrition services, we look at head count because each person qualifies for a meal, not an FTE in that case. So with our student enrollment that we've had, you can see it's been fairly flat through that time period. The percent of students taking a meal was at 50% back in the 21-22 school year, went down to 42%, 49%, 57%, and we're expecting to have a little bit of an increase next year as well for those meals. So participation is up, and I think it's because of Brussels sprouts. But more students are taking meals, which is great.
Does that also include breakfast after the bell?
It does. That's part of that program.
And so maybe
too.
that's why the uptake was more, because that program really got spread out.
Yeah, I
couple
know it's a
years
good
ago.
contributor to it. In fact, we've been receiving recognition from other school districts and United Way of King County, for example, on the program that we have. How spectacular it is.
Go
So,
team.
yeah. Let's see, from there, so on an average day, we're serving 11,000 breakfasts, 15,000 lunches, over 1,000 snacks, for a total of almost 28,000 different meal components for the students. So that's with about 190 employees and substitutes that are filling in for us as well. So it's a big volume. The budgeted revenue, you'll see for this year, 94% of what we bring in for revenues is through the CEP program on meals being reimbursed for students that are taking qualified meals. That's budgeted at $17 million. Another $1 million through USDA directly, and then some other funding that comes in through other sources, or adults buying meals in the lunchrooms, for example, as well. Also, to put it in perspective, now from the Nutrition Services Department, that's a big budget that we're trying to work on, to work within and so forth. But overall, when you look at the $578 million, this is only 3% of the funding that comes into the district overall. For the budgeted costs, we have almost $13 million going towards staffing, almost $7 million for food, and then about $500,000 for other supplies and so forth that we have. Now, you'll notice, as the superintendent had made mention, we have about $20 million of costs covered by $18 million of expected reimbursements for meals. So that other $2 million comes from local taxes as the source to fund that. So it's not a self-supporting program. It does take local taxes for us to cover that. Future financial impacts, we try to be as fiscally responsive as we can in nutrition services. For revenue sources, we apply for grants that become available, always constantly on the lookout for those. And we do have several each year that do provide funding for us, as well as some ways to get some reduced cost food. Increasing non-student meal participation, meaning adults. So you can imagine, again, now that we have Brussels sprouts, we have flocks of adults coming in as parents or students that want to have some of those meals as well. And quite frankly, when I'm out at a school, I'll get a meal because they're really good. There's lots of options available for adults. Now, as adults, we don't have to purchase a qualifying meal. We can get whatever components we want out of that. So if you want 2 apples, you can get 2 apples, as an example. But I was recently at a school that we had salmon that day. It was through the Farm to Schools program that salmon was available.
So if we see nachos and apples that the staff are taking, then, or nachos and Brussels sprouts, then we know that we've hit a jackpot.
Yeah.
That's all
Nutrition,
I do. Every
right?
visit, I
Every-
need
okay.
nachos.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and if you go into one of our schools now at lunchtime, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, you would see the nacho line was huge. Now when you go, the nacho line is pretty evenly spread out with all the other food options that we have, so it's really nice to see that. And that goes on the other one, increasing participation from students. The variety of foods helps them to participate more. They see it. Yesterday I was in a school and we had apple cider, again through that Farm to School program. And the kids were running up to get apple cider. They were so excited for apple cider. So those kind of things help to increase that, as well as communicating to parents. I recently had a phone call from a parent that was complaining that all their child ever gets at school are nachos. Could we please serve something else? And I read off the menu for the school that her student was at, and she said, he told me that all that they have available is nachos. So,
Smart kid.
yeah. So I think making, parents and families aware of what's being offered in the schools too will help us out. On decreasing expenditures, we're looking at alternate food sources like the Farm to Schools program and other programs around us. Reducing our food waste. Part of that is the programs that we have to kind of forecast how many students are going to be coming in. Our cook managers do a phenomenal job of saying, on Tuesdays, I normally have this many students come through. On Wednesdays, it's a little bit lower, it's this. And so we're able to reduce our food waste by having people there who really know what they're doing and are planning for those students. And then reducing labor costs, we use meals per labor hour. It's a national standard on how we would staff our schools. And we've been working with the union in partnership on staffing our schools to meet those meals per labor hour standards that are nationwide. So it's nice to have that partnership. And the final one is the central kitchen coming up. That was approved by voters in the recent bond. And that's probably in the next couple of years, we'll have that done. That'll help out too. And that's the end of that part. Any additional questions?
So I was curious, because I don't, maybe I missed it, but I was curious what the actual cost to the district is per student based on, in comparison to what we get.
Yeah, so that's we get about 18 million. It costs us about 20 million
Okay.
to run the program. So there's that 2 million that comes from local. Without that $2 million that we use from local taxes, we would be running in a deficit.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So my question is on one of the slides where you were showing how many lunches, how many breakfasts, and they were 11,000 and, I don't know, 17,000, whatever. But that's far below the 26,000 students we have. Are those other students opting to bring their own lunch? Is that, or are they just not buying lunch or not getting lunch, do we know?
Hard to say. We don't really research that data, but most of the students that I see in the lunchroom that are not going through the line, they brought something in from home. And we're actually encouraging them, if they do bring something in from home, to supplement that by coming through the line and getting, their fresh fruits and vegetables right there that day, a milk and so forth. But yeah, most of them are doing some other source.
Okay, because that's a big number difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I appreciate that we're constantly encouraging kids and that, but some families and some kids like to bring their lunches in that space, and so there's no judgment
Right.
in there. And so you can see by one of those charts, I think we're up to like 57% of our students being served on a daily basis in that space. It's contextually, why are we doing these series, right? Washington State is in a horrific Washington State public schools are in a horrific financial situation. And so it's important to see where the money's coming and where the places and the gaps are, right? And so as we serve more kids, that cost and that gap continues to widen. Right? And so that's a very sensitive place when we're trying to build a budget, and when we're so thin and we're trying to build a budget and then maintain that budget, and then having this need that is being supported through an enrichment levy activity.
Yeah.
That's a challenge. And unfortunately, we're not alone. I mean, you might have saw on the news last night that 5 school districts came together: Bellevue, Mercer Island, Lake Washington, Issaquah, and Renton, and had over 1,000 parents and kids talk about the funding spaces. Those are schools in King County that have a different tax base than we do here in Pierce County, and they're struggling in these spaces. And so I want every kid to have a meal, and at the same time, we want them to feel safe to have a meal, but we want to be careful about, I don't know how long we can sustain this approach. We know where our fund balance is. We know that, that other costs continue to rise, food costs continue to rise. So it's going to be a challenging piece. And so these are those moments where we want to pause and see all that goes into it. It's also a huge celebration. And then we have to recognize that it's coming at a significant cost.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Kari, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
If you are out of school, and I know many of you are always at schools, is go into the lunchroom, see those salad bars. The nachos are great. There's a lot of different options. Vice President McElroy, I'll never try to convince you not to eat the nachos, but it's in that space. So, and the team our nutrition staff team does an amazing job under Gina's leadership and there. So thank you very much. At this time, I have asked Malik to give us a quick update on, I think you remember in the fall we had some public comment around paid sick leave. And I want to just kind of give you an update of where we are with that with our substitutes.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent Garcia. So you might remember this was at the business meeting before Thanksgiving break. We were back at the PDC. You might remember we had 2 substitute teachers come and give public comment about concerns they had with paid sick leave. So at the direction of the school board and Superintendent Garcia, staff started to look into the concerns that were raised. In particular, we looked at a couple things around accrual and then use of accrued leave. And then CFO Medina gave you an update at the subsequent business meeting on kind of how that work was progressing. And I'm here to kind of tie it up and sort of share with you the conclusion. So today, this was published to all staff by our team in the communication department, basically telling folk where we are. And so you'll be seeing more communication come out. I understand we have some group-specific communication looking to go out to specific labor groups. But we've been able to resolve what we believe was a concern shared by the two public commenters at that business meeting before Thanksgiving break. We now have a system that's been pushed out to all staff about how they will be reporting and using leave if they would like to. There's a form that's at the bottom. This is just a screenshot of the email that went out today. We had a weekly newsletter that went out to all staff today, and this is the screenshot that applied to the paid sick leave concern that was raised. And so we have a well laid out process for both folk that are eligible for taking it, for accruing it, and how they're going to use it. And so I think this will probably resolve any of the concerns that were brought to you around that issue. The last piece that will probably be done after this is some of those labor group specific communication to go out. Our regular staff that use and take sick leave regularly as part of the systems we already have built in, this doesn't impact them. This is smaller groups of employees that we didn't really have a super clear system for them to use the sick leave they've accrued. So just to let you know that we've resolved that, and if there's any further questions, we'd be happy to take them and answer them.
Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
And our last, with the best for last, we're going to turn to our student rep and for her report out tonight. Anna?
Thank you. So I'm at Stadium, and I guess our goal for the past month and a half has been a lot of student recognition and participation. And so we had a winter pep assembly and a spirit week the week before winter break, and so we were able to get a lot of participation in that event, and also throughout the spirit week as we like to take some pictures as we go through the hallways of students and their participation, and to just share them with the yearbook so we can look back on it. Also, before winter break, we also had our spring musical auditions for our musical, which is called Chicago, and from what I've been told, it was a great turnout, and it's going to be a great thing with all the people that auditioned and the cast. Back in November, we had a Friendsgiving event where it was more of a fundraiser to give back to local charities, and we decided as an ASB and as a school that we wanted to continue giving back to our community, and so we have a goal of raising $2,000 by the end of the school year to give back to local charities. And our next event will be, it's called the Palentines, and it's the day before Valentine's, where we'll just invite all students to come and to hang out, and if they're willing to, just donate $1 to give back to our community. So yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that, good job. We're gonna move forward to item number 8, staff report to the board, which there is not one. So we'll move on to item number 9, which is members of the public wishing to address the board. Here, Tracy, we have a couple cards?
We have one this evening.
Okay, well, I'll go forward with reading this. School board members encourage public participation. Your civil input is appreciated. Board members will not respond to your comments during the meeting. The superintendent or a designee will follow up with you after the meeting if action is needed. Instead of speaking at a meeting, you may also send an email to the board at board@tacoma.k12.wa.us. Please contact the board office in advance of the meeting for disability accommodations. Under Board Policy 1430 for public comment, the board president may terminate an individual's comments when the allotted time has passed and may interrupt a speaker to require the same standard of civility that the board imposes on itself. Examples of uncivil comments include comments that are libelous or slanderous under a legal standard, are unwarranted invasion of privacy, are obscene or indecent pursuant to the Federal Communications Act or any rule or regulation of the Federal Communications Commission, violate school district policy or procedure related to harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination, incite an unlawful act on school premises or violate a lawful school regulation, or create a material and substantial disruption of the orderly operation of the board meeting. The board as a whole has the final decision in determining the appropriateness of all such rulings and can maintain order by removing those who are disruptive. However, the board recognizes the distinction between uncivil discourse, which it will not tolerate, and comments about the board, district, and/or staff that are negative, yet still civil in nature. The board will exercise its authority to maintain order in a content-neutral manner. 2 ways to give comment. The first one is verbal comment. The general counsel will call your name when it's your turn to address the school board. Please speak into the microphone. You'll have up to 3 minutes to share your comments, or if there are a large number of speakers, time may be limited at the president's discretion. Option number 2 is written comment. You can send an email to the email I read out earlier. I'll pass it to you, general counsel.
Yes, we have no written comment for this evening and 1 verbal comment from Paul Barak.
Thank you. I am a substitute teacher for the Tacoma School District, and I came here to speak in support of us substitutes getting sick leave, given that we are exposed to the exact same germs and viruses as teachers, but did not have the financial protection of days off that teachers did. I'm learning today that this has been provided. I apparently did not get that email. So thank you guys for considering that, and thank you for giving us the ability to accrue sick leave. I do ask that, as I found out, under the law, we were accruing sick leave all of last year, but there was no mechanism to use it. So I do ask that you consider all of the sick leave that we accrued last year for those of us who work as substitute teachers full-time. I also ask that you consider raising substitute teacher pay. I understand that there is always a budget crunch, but this is a very difficult job. This is a job that requires a lot of skill in classroom management, especially with students who you are, in many times, meeting for the first time and going into classroom dynamics completely blind. So this is a very difficult position. It is not simply done by retirees. This is done by working people. And with the cost of everything going up, I ask that you consider raising substitute teacher pay. Thank you. I give up the rest of my time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
That's it.
That was the only public comment we had. And just to clarify, I read the communication that Tanisha's group sent out today, and leave that is accrued from last year that carries over to this year is included in the ability for them to take it. So the answer to that question will be yes.
Perfect. Appreciate that clarification.
I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
The consent agenda has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There's no opposed. We're moving forward. Somebody trying to go to the crib. Item number 11, policy matters. There are none tonight. Item number 12, financial report. The district's monthly financial report will be presented at the January 23rd, 2025 business meeting. Monthly financial statements can be found on the district website, tacomaschools.org/departments/business and finance. Item number 13, curriculum and instruction. There are no curriculum and instruction items this evening. And moving to item number 14, business matters. Item 14.1, approval of the contract number TSD-24-106, amendment number 1 between Seneca Family of Agencies and the Tacoma School District number 10 from January 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2026.
The superintendent, on behalf of the Director of Whole Child, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD-24-106, amendment number 1 between Seneca Family of Agencies and the Tacoma School District number 10 from January 1, 2025 through December 31st, 2026 for up to $270,000. Funding source, City of Tacoma MHSUD grant.
I move to adopt item 14.1.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments about this item?
I just want to thank our city and our seniors leadership for leaning in to support our kids. And so this allows us to provide some on-site mental health services. And we could have never done this without the partnership with the City of Tacoma. So thank you.
I second that. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, I didn't hear any opposed, so it passes. Item 14.2, the approval of agreement number TSD-24-225 between the City of Tacoma, Tacoma Creates, and Tacoma Public Schools for the 2024-25 school year and the summer of 2025.
The superintendent, on behalf of the Director of Athletics and Activities, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD 24-225 for the City of Tacoma to reimburse Tacoma Public Schools transportation costs for the 24-25 school year and through summer of 2025 up to $300,000.
I move item 14. I move item 14.2.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments about this one?
I just want to say thank you to the Tacoma Creates, the voters of the City of Tacoma, and the City of Tacoma themselves. So this does some amazing things. It helps us provide after-school busing so that our kids can get to activities, Beyond the Bell, Club B, and field trips. It's really a gift that we have in our city, and so I'd be remiss not to take a moment to say thank you to all those folks involved in supporting our kids to make sure that they have a safe place to be before school, after school, and throughout the day.
Second that again. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, hearing none, it passes 5-0. Item 14.3, approval of contract number TSD-21-091, amendment number 9 between Corsmo Construction Company and the Tacoma School District number 10 from November 25th, 2022 through December 31st, 2025.
The Chief Operating Officer, on behalf of the Executive Director of Planning and Construction, recommends that the Board of Directors approve contract number TSD-21-091 between Corsmo Construction Company and Tacoma School District Number 10 for the Synthetic Fields Upgrades Bundle Project in an amount of $3,954,976 for an estimated total of $40,532,911, excluding sales tax from November 25th, 2022 to December 31st, 2025.
We got a motion?
I move 14.3.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we solid again. Passes 5-0. Thanks, Chris. Moving right along, item number 15, other business. There is no other business tonight. Item number 16, board comments and reports. And rock, paper, scissors is happening.
We're making some
They're
agreements over
picking
here.
each. Who's gonna go?
I got you. I don't have very much to report. I guess the first thing I wanted to just report that and General Counsel Bender and I spoke about this earlier this afternoon. Throughout the continuation of the challenging to the Biden administration updated rules for Title IX that include protections for trans students. There was a ruling today in a case in Kentucky that vacated the ruling, and so ostensibly says that it's unenforceable, excuse me. And so that came through this morning or sometime today. That actually still doesn't change anything in the state of Washington because the updated rules actually brought Title IX, which is a federal rules, into more alignment with state laws and protections that are already in existence for our students. It does create confusion for people in terms of what does it and doesn't do, but I just wanted to bring that to folks' attention because it did, it was a relatively important ruling that came out with significant implications that actually also impact far more than just gender identity. It impacts students, pregnant students as well, and a variety of other issues. So it's, the ruling itself was, let's see, I'm trying to think how I should say this, Malik, in a,
Recorded way.
well, in a factual way, but the ruling was vague.
Yeah.
And potentially could be challenged, but given the incoming federal administration is likely not to be challenged. So, so the work that had been done in partnership with the Civil Rights Department and the Department of Education over the last 4 years basically was just overruled or overturned.
Yeah, you could say vacated is over.
Vacated,
Yeah.
okay. It's, and that's something that I, on a professional level, outside of this role, and with this role, had been pretty involved in. And so it's disappointing to see trans students in this country yet again be the target of continuous litigation. And so, and attacks that are unwarranted for a very small population in the country. So I just wanted to share that. And then the other thing I wanted to share is right before break, I did go to the Silas boys basketball versus Gig Harbor basketball game in Gig Harbor in support of our students and Bernadette Ray, Principal Ray. After a few days earlier, another team, Lincoln, having had a really disturbing interaction with some students on the Gig Harbor side team, and some very racial comments from the crowd, as well as there was reports of things being said on the court as well. So I did go to attend the game just to be there in support of students, families, and staff. And I will say that on both teams, the teams acted, they were very sportsmanlike, and everyone was really well behaved. And there were no incidences with the game that I saw. And then I just want to acknowledge Peninsula School District for acknowledging the situation and communicating that it's not behavior that is tolerated. So we just acknowledge, I know that, that my other colleagues and I that talked about the situation when it had occurred with Lincoln High School, that we were very grateful that there was a very quick, rapid response to the circumstances and addressing the behavior. And so, but it was also really great to be with, there was lots of family members there and kids there cheering on Silas, and they won. And so that was also, it's always a bonus when they win. So I just wanted to say that, and then I'm going to leave the big event from yesterday to others to share. So that's all I got.
Oh, wait.
I lied. I had one more thing.
You see what happens when you sit in that chair?
I know. It is.
You forget things.
So Monday actually is the first day of the legislative session. And so actually next week is a very big week for the state of Washington. Legislative session starts on Monday. Governor Inslee gives his last State of the State address on Tuesday, his last one over the last 12 years. And then Wednesday, Governor-elect Ferguson will be sworn in, as well as Attorney General-elect Nick Brown will be sworn in on Wednesday. So it is going to be a very big, there's a lot of transition happening at the state level as well. So next week's going to be a pretty big week. And we are going into a long session, which will seem like it's going on for 12 years, but it'll be approximately 4 months. And it'll end around, I think it's mid-April, but I don't remember the specific date. So now I'm done, Chelsea.
Okay, I'll go next. Yesterday was the groundbreaking event for Maritime 253. I want to say, again, thank you to Lisa, Director Keating, and Director Bonbright for your pivotal leadership in getting this off the ground from the genesis of this work. It's really important to acknowledge those who come before you, and then like you get to step into their shoes and say, yeah, and I'm taking credit now. So now as vice president, I really appreciate, the work that you did to lay the groundwork before we got to a groundbreaking ceremony. I was really touched listening to President Strozier give a moving speech while sitting in the cold. Somehow you made us all feel something, and that was great. But it's really important that we highlight some of the things that TPS is doing very well. I think we have some innovative schools, we have amazing staff, we have wonderful children and families and community partners and architecture people and building people. I'm like, I don't know nothing about construction, so thank you, Chris, for all the work you do and your whole team. Thank you for educating me when I need help, because I do ask a lot of questions. But at the groundbreaking ceremony, it was just really good to highlight some of the work that we will be doing, which is to enrich the whole port community and enrich the east side of the Foss Waterway. They're doing some sustainability efforts there as well. And when they do open up this new building and this new center, it will not only impact Tacoma Public School students, but students from the whole county, so many surrounding cities, so many surrounding school districts. And it just is creating a pipeline for student success. And I think it only highlights how much we are willing to collaborate with others in the work that we do. And that's why the amount of people who were there, from the port commissioners, the city officials, there were state and federal representation present, the county council was there, and the Parks District. So it was really interesting to see all of those who we partner with in different ways show up to support the work that we want to do and move our community forward. Happy New Year, we made it back. It was a long break. I did not rest as much as I should have. I don't have a really long report, but it was really good to be in the company of people who know the work that we're doing, they can elevate the work that we're doing, and I think that we're starting to create some common language around what is the goal and focus of Tacoma Public Schools, and it's really to make our whole community better. And on yesterday, I really felt that, and some of the words that we've been saying were echoed back to me, so I think that we're doing a really good job with positive messaging and telling people our story. So thanks to Tanisha and the comms department.
So the community probably knows that the infection rates for influenza and COVID have been going up, and most of the healthcare institutions now are requiring masks in patient care areas. That is just a trend that's probably going to happen every winter for a long period of time. And what I have heard, though, from some students is that sometimes when students wear masks at school, some other kids give them a hard time. So I'm wondering if there's if there's a monitoring process for that, or if adults see that happening, if there's a way to prevent that from happening. I think people should be free to wear their masks if they feel like they need to prevent infections from going to their susceptible high-risk people that might be in their homes. So we also have the first H1N1 flu death in the country a few days ago, and so that is a pandemic that could flourish, hopefully not, but there will be another pandemic at some point in this country and in the world. So I think it's important that we don't make people feel ostracized by doing that. And in the same vein of feeling ostracized, to add on to the comment we heard about the game at Peninsula, I'm wondering, it sounds like they took care of that problem at that school and prevented that from happening again with Silas, what happened with Lincoln. But I've heard, we've heard multiple times that this is a trend that occurs around racist insults, sexist insults, homophobic insults towards athletes from chants and crowds. And what level of authority do the administrators from one school have when it's not their school and it's coming out of control on one side? Can the game be stopped? Can players be ejected, penalized, things like that? Something, because I heard of a disturbing recent event at Sumner and Bonnie Lake High School had a game that was, I won't go into all the details, but really, really disturbing around homophobic things that were happening against a player there. So just wondering, is there some safety mechanism?
The referees are actually trained in Washington State to stop the game when they hear those slurs that take place. They actually stop the game. They have the ability to assign, if you will, a personal foul, They have the ability to eject. The home administration is in charge of the event. So the challenge becomes if we are at another event, we have assigned administrators, we're supposed to work with that school in that space. In the incidents in the fall, just to give you some background, we then are also in communication with that school district. What is your plan to address in there from the superintendent's office? We make contact with the WIA. What is your plan to help address this? And so we've asked them to lean in to be more proactive around anti-hate, anti-discrimination practices. It's a challenging piece, but the game is supposed to be stopped, the contest, I should say, not all sports or games, the contest in there, the match, if that happens. And the referee ultimately makes that call as far as an ejection goes. The challenge has been, even in recently, and we saw some of this in football and then some in basketball, where the referee has, I think, right intent, tried to have restorative conversations. I'm not sure of the impact always in that space, and so trying to de-escalate the situation in there. And so it happened to us a couple times visiting teams with football and now in basketball.
So if the referee is not taking action, if something is severe and the home administrative team feels like it's over the line, the administrative team doesn't have the power to end the game. It's the referee's only call.
You can step away from a contest and ultimately forfeit the contest. If it's in the crowd, we have whoever's the host has the responsibility to remove hateful from the crowds and stop that immediately. Like I said, many schools, depends on the sport and the size of the crowd. Leagues have rules around assigning administrative supervision for away events in that space in there. And so if it got to that place, we would support our school district administrators for making that decision. The first piece is to keep kids safe, right? We'll worry about the contests afterwards in that space.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, I think this is the first time in 4 years.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you good over there?
I had it
She's
before you
amazing.
said, I'm just gonna
Okay.
give people
Amazing.
space.
All right. Well, I will. I'll bring New Year. I'll bring us home.
Talking so sharp.
Yeah, I am. I'm at a loss for words. No, I'll go ahead and bring us home. The Maritime Skills Center groundbreaking event was amazing yesterday. Just to feel what we felt in the air. If you weren't there, I'm sorry you missed it. Hopefully if you watch some sort of recording, you can feel what we felt. But there were multiple references towards partnership, collaboration yesterday in speeches, in side conversations. And I think we're doing some cool stuff as a school district. And now linking arms with like the port, the city, like folks are coming together because they recognize that what we do now is going to impact folks for generations, right? So I said yesterday, I think in the speech, something about talk being cheap. I can't remember. But like talk is just talk. And one thing I love about this school district is if we see an opportunity to do something that's going to benefit young people, we find a way to do it. And I'm talking about folks who are extremely excited. I ain't never wore an apron for so long.
A Carhartt apron, excuse me.
I had that Carhartt apron on. My sister, I left the groundbreaking event and went to my sister's job, and she was like, "What are you wearing?" I'm like, well, let me tell you what I have on right now. So it was exciting to be a part of that and throw some dirt around, and I can't wait until fall of 2026 because I don't know if you saw the renderings of the building. That alone has me excited. Like that whole area of the city is going to be beautiful, and we have a hand in that. So thank you everybody who had a hand in getting this thing going. And what I love is it's not going to stop there. So let's keep going at it. Let's keep going at it. The only other thing that I have to talk about tonight are the 2025 Board of Director Committee assignments. So I'm going to just run down this list real quick so folks know what we are going to be getting into, and then I'll close us out. Director Bonbright is going to continue on the Equity Policy Review Team, the Tacoma Education Dream Fund, good old JMAC, capital JMAC. Director Keating will move forward as a legislative representative still, thank you, and continuing on the Tacoma Education Dream Fund, the Federal Relations Network, and the Traffic Safety Committee. Director Leon will continue on Safe Streets. Vice President McElroy will join me on the Citizens Finance and Audit Committee, Head Start Policy Council, and she will be taking my place on the Capitol JMAC. So welcome to your first meeting tomorrow, 7:45 a.m.
Moved it to the following.
Yeah.
Wow, lucky you. Okay, well, one morning you will be on extremely early. And then I'll continue, like I said, on the Citizens Finance and Audit Committee, the CTE General Advisory Committee, and I have 2 more years on WASDA's Interscholastics Activities Committee. So with that, that's all, unless anybody has anything else.
Just a couple of quick, exciting opportunities for community and families and kids. So next, the 14th, I believe it's a Tuesday, is UPS Logger Basketball Night for TPS. And so you can go on our website, right on the main page. It's a free event for TPS students and their families, and it's a great way to get out and try something new. See the amazing campus of UPS. We have this world-class education institution right here on the hilltop, and so just encouraging folks to take an opportunity to be with each other and root on our local university in that space as well in there. And then on the 15th, there is another ribbon cutting ceremony for our stadium baseball team's new field, and that's at Peck on the 15th, and that is from 3 to 4 o'clock. And so it's another great opportunity to see some of the collaboration that's taken place and seeing that part of town start to transform too. The entire Peck campus is not complete, but the baseball field is alive and well. And so we will be able to have varsity JV baseball right here on the hilltop for our Stadium Tigers this fall as promised.
Cool. Well, I will jump in real quick and just bring us home, but I will say Logger Night for hoop, is it both men's and women's basketball?
I believe it is. I see a verifying, yes.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good time, and I just, a shameless plug, because I'm sitting here, the head coach of the UPS Loggers men's basketball team is a Lincoln alumni, Aubrey Shelton. So I'm just saying you should probably go check it out. He's a good coach, and they got a good team. I will say that.
And also go support women's athletics.
Absolutely.
So
My daughter will be there front row, as will I. So that's why.
it was a good
both-
game last time we went.
Absolutely. This is becoming a tradition. Moving forward, we have, I should get back to the agenda real quick, the announcement of the next regular board meetings, January 16th, 2025, 6 p.m. We have a listening session with the Tacoma Special Education Parent Teachers Association. January 23rd is our next board meeting here. And then February 13th is the next board meeting after that, which is the same night as, what'd you call it? You called it, I wrote it down, but my handwriting is terrible. Palentine's, right? That same day. So if you, please don't skip the meeting to go, but if you have some time, we can try to get out here and go see what's up. So with that, I will go ahead and call this meeting to a close. Thanks.